station. Jave Wagwan, big up yourself, me seeing that place. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to say big shout out to my donators as well. All right. All of you, every one of you, thank you so much for donating to the platform. I welcome. I look forward to your continued support. And if anybody wants to join the donation team, you're more than welcome to. You know. Hold on. Where is
as it relates to 18 degrees north with
Here we go, here we go.
Right? As it relates to an ATI that been requested by Zara Burton.
Here we go.
So we are going to get into it because Zara Burton following up on that investigation. So without any delay, all right, honey.
Before he goes in, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay close attention to the word transparency and accountability. Those are the two words that I want you to pay attention to. Transparency and accountability. All right, let's go.
Let's get into 18 degrees north. Right, Zara Burton. Now, remember that we spoke about the permanent secretary, Audrey Sewell. Right, that Audrey Sewell is the master key for Andrew Holness. Right, utilizing herself, giving the kleptocrat access to the treasury. Now let us look. Here is Zara Burton again, April 25th, 2025. Jamaican government relents, saying it will grant access to water agreement with Vinci-led consortium, but document delivery to be delayed. You hear that, people? A few hours after 18 degrees north, last publication, calling into question the transparency of the public-private partnership based on Jamaica government's refusal to share documents as allowed under the Access to Information Act, the ATI. The state's National Water Commission reversed its decision. It said access would be granted to a copy of the PPP agreement it signed with Ryakobri Water Limited, the private consortium led by a local subsidiary of French construction company Vinci. However, the NWC said it was requesting a period of at least another 45 days to send the 265-page document with all commercially sensitive information redacted. Then, here's the transparency. It continued in the event that the National Water Commission is unable to complete the reduction exercise within the above timeline. Hiding Zagwan. We commit to providing you with an update indicating same and advising of the additional time required to complete the reduction exercise. Can you imagine, people? This communication from the NWC on the evening of April 17 calls into question whether the NWC is intentionally dragging out the process. And if yes, the question is why? Why is a minimum of 45 days needed to make a reduction to a 265-page document? How much information?
What can go so? What can go so?
Is likely to be redacted. It seems like no, this is just unbelievable. This is just unbelievable, right? So indicative of this government try to suppress the information because they don't want people to know and understand the high level of corruption that is taking place. NWC,
if you don't believe, say, a corruption broad road is being established here, so I want to type corruption in our chat. Based off what you hear from Mystic Sensation already. 45 days for declassify or for edit a 200 and something page document. One of the things that necessary, my people? Do you guys think it is necessary? for them to have 45 days. 45 days? More than divide 45 in a 245. A 5 page a day, them a go fix. How much people are do it? A one person a take care of that. 5 page a day. You see how ridiculous it sounds when they really do the maths?
First delays. NWC first agreement under the ATI Act on January 23, 2025.
Take a right hand, shake it out. How many people here want to learn faster? How many people want to remember more? Yeah? Watch this. Make a fist. Now put it to your chin.
Try to suppress the information because they don't want people to know and understand the high level of corruption that is taking place. NWC, the first delays. NWC first acknowledged 18 degrees not request for a copy of the PP agreement under the ATI Act on January 23, 2025. After 30 days, the NWC wrote requesting an additional 30 days to protest the query, which is allowed under the law. Then on March 14, 7 weeks after the original request, it wrote denying the request and that on the basis that disclosing the information would harm commercial interest and exemption allowed under the Act. Now, let me tell you something now with this. Some level of criminality I'm going in. Because as it relates to the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, right, denied the increase of the rate, Remember, so last week we read it out as it relates to how the rate was increased and $2 extra billion added. People want to remember what you had read last week. So then what Sarah Burton want to know, right, if the cabinet sign off on this thing, but remember now, people we talk about Audrey Sewell, and that Audrey Sewell as the master key. You understand? To make sure that Andrew Holness have access to the treasury. So these are the things that we are talking about. Then on March 14, 7 weeks after the original request, it wrote denying the request on the basis that disclosing the information would harm commercial interest and exemption allowed under the Act. And like them are telling you, come up. Then no one is not Robert, no one go on. 18 degrees now requested a review of the decision on March 19 on the basis that the Act still allows for disclosure of documents with the commercially sensitive information redacted. Now, its latest response means that the redacted document won't be forthcoming until the earliest June 1st, when you hear people. And then by June 1st, they're going to come up with some shenanigans, some bangarang again. Almost 6 months after the original request. We want to hear that, And all what Zara Burton is pursuing here is that an agreement that strike between the government, you understand, and a private sector organization. And where the government and the private sector organization agreed to increase the rate by $2 billion. That to me look like kickback portion, kickback money, And when they were doing that, remember people, that you have a lot of countries as it relates to Donald Trump tariff. We're actually reducing their rates to minimize the effect of Donald Trump tariff. But Andrew won't let government not do that. Andrew won't let government increase the rate by $2 extra billion for the Jamaican people as it relates to this private entity who's going to take over the recovery thing for pump water to the people. So the people are going to pay the increase. Now, agree. Another entity.
Now, one of the thing, people, one of the things say a kickback at one. Who want to listen it, I play it, I can always play it over, but I have to interject here, so. What do you think about that? An increase of $2 billion, and then why is it that they don't want to release the information to Sarah Burton? Do you guys remember that? I believe Andrew Holness had taken Sarah Burton to court. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? You remember when she first did an investigation about his properties and his taxes? And they said that she did it with malice and whatever. You remember that? people, we have a fox. We have foxes in the hen house of lawmaking. Here, we have a lot of foxes in there. All right, very criminal-minded individuals are the ones that are actually making the laws. Yeah.
ATI request denied by NWC. This hasn't been the only ATI request.
In my opinion.
Who's going to take over the right over? So the people are going to pay the increase. Now, agree. Another ATI request denied by NWC. This hasn't been the only ATI request denied by NWC this year, as 18 Degrees North tries to understand whether consumer water rates will go up because of the project cost for the Royal Cobra water treatment plant increasing. See, now people, because I'm glad old Zara Burton get back to it so people can understand it. So we could get in it now, people. We could get in at the source. All right, so what Zara Burton is saying now, this hasn't been the only ATI request denied by NWC, this year, as 18 Degrees North tries to understand whether consumer water rates will go up because of the project cost for the Royal Cobra water treatment plant increasing to what, $92 million, which is 14.75 billion Jamaican dollars, people. 14.75 billion Jamaican dollars, from US $76 million, which was 12.22 billion. So we are looking at an additional $2.8 billion for Andrew Holness administration. I love people. I love people. You want people to get their turn. Now you go never stand up. Your Oris Chang. Where the Wikileaks are look for. No, you want me to can't travel go nowhere. Go to nowhere.
Embarrassing. He needs some milk.
Again. Your Oris Chang. Where the Wikileaks are look for. No, you want me to can't travel go nowhere. Go to nowhere. Different police. Which I do not pay the police. And if you want to come to again, when you're in private sector, you understand? They set up to increase this rate by additional $2 billion. You understand? To the Jamaica taxpayers them. No, you won't claim say. You understand? No new tax. And you make up with company. All the $2 billion we tell the people a kickback. A kickback. And make a surge in the interest rate. And no evidence of competitive bidding. When you see the same thing when I talk about. Remember Zara Burton. Let me talk to you, Zara Burton. Remember Zara Burton. You have to remember that Audrey Sewell dead in. Zara Burton.
Emotional damage.
Evidence of competitive bidding. When you see the same thing when I talk about. Remember Zara Burton. Let me talk to you, Zara Burton. Remember Zara Burton. You have to remember that Audrey Sewell dead in. Zara Burton. You have to remember say Audrey Sewell. Zara Burton. Let me talk to you about Audrey Sewell. Zara Burton. Remember, say Audrey Sewell was the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education when Andrew Holness started the influencing of contract with Gavin in 2008. Zara Burton, yes, Zara Burton. Audrey Sewell was the permanent secretary. Let me tell you some more things, Zara Burton. You don't know that Andrew Holness moved the same Audrey Sewell to various ministries. And Zara Burton, let me tell you this. All of the ministries where Andrew Holness moved Audrey Sewell. All of them ministries there.
No, ladies and gentlemen.
Unaccounted for. Yes, Zara. Billions of dollars unaccounted for. And you know what now, Zara Burton? Andrew Holness decided to say he wanted the master key. So Andrew Holness done. Andrew Holness promote Audrey Sewell to cabinet secretary. What that means, Zara Burton? Simple means that Audrey Sewell being the cabinet secretary, then Audrey Sewell in charge of all of the permanent secretary then. So when you have on this now, we're the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, we're favored, overruled, because the permanent secretary further this, And this guy say, she now put fair signature upon this, You know what people do? People take it now and carry on. And so then who sign off on it? No, Audrey Sewell sign off on this. I tell you, Audrey Sewell give Andrew Holness the master key to do all of them corruption here. You have to talk it out plain now because the people don't really understand it now. Even at this higher cost, the NWC regulator, the Office of Utility Regulation, that also approves consumer rates, into that the rates may not have to go up as a result of this project. If the NWC can lower the proportion of water it loses in the supply area to the mid 40% range. which would be a major improvement over the 70% of water that NWC has for decades, lost to issues like leaks and theft.
It's official. Barita is launching its first ever public bond. But before we get into the details,
meaning only 30% has traditionally been sold. But when 18 degrees north on February 14 requested information regarding the NWC's projected average rate of water loss for the project, the actual rate now for each zone within the supply area, which is supposed to include Kingston and St. Andrew, Portmore, and wider St. Catherine, and the proportion of 15 million additional gallons of water each day from the project that will supply each zone, the NWC denied the request on March 14 on the basis that this disclosure would prejudice commercial interest. No, they don't want Sarah Burton know what I want. Because all I want, I mean, was Audrey Sewell sign off on this sign. We're challenged by 18 degrees now about whose commercial interests were being compromised, since similar information for some of the zones.
And people, you hear how much time you mention Audrey Sewell, you need to go watch a live stream. You hear me I telling you? You need to go watch a live stream here from Mystic Sensation and hear how the man break down Audrey Sewell, and pretty much he's saying that she's the mastermind that gives Andrew Holness access to the treasury. Not my word. Not my word. He even mentioned that based off of evidence, every single agency drop off. Are we back? There we go. We should be back and good. Him said based off of evidence, ladies and gentlemen, every agency that Miss Audrey is a part of, apparently there is monies unaccounted for in every ministry that she was a part of. This is what Mystic Sensation said. So basically his argument was that she is the common denominator when it comes on to monies being unaccounted for. You know, them can't find the receipt them for this money where they say use for go here so, and all type of important documents with the Auditor General cannot be found. That is what he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, this political space is heating up very, very rapidly. Very, very rapidly. And if you don't pay attention, you're going to get lost in the sauce. Yeah? Members of media tell you that. Let's continue.
Had been revealed. NWC finally relented on April 14, 2 months after the original request, outlining that the so-called non-revenue water percentage for Portmore and the metropolitan area of Kingston and St. Andrew 45% each, and it was 75% for wider St. Catherine. It said the distribution of the water to the specific areas had been decided as yet. As far as the project rate of water loss associated with the project, after the distribution lines to move water from the new treatment plant are replaced, the NWC stated that has not been determined if true that would call into question how the entity was able to get the project approved in the first place without that key bit of information to determine the project viability. But Sarah Burton, you have to remember again, Sarah Burton. No, I just Sewell at the top, man. Sewell at the top, you know. I'm going to give you one more thing what you never know, Sarah Burton. You never know, say, Audrey Sewell, father. Is Audrey Sewell father, right? Who paid to kill a permanent secretary? Because the permanent secretary has a plan to him. Now make the money run.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
Emotional damage.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
secretary as a client to him. Right? Who paid to kill a permanent secretary? Because the permanent secretary has a client to him. Now make the money run. If you remember this, you know. So she is coming from a table where the DNA is criminality. That's the table that she's coming from, you know. Now, if true, that would call into question how the entity was able to get the project approved in the first place without what that key bit of information to determine the project viability. Request about other projects also delayed by the NWC. They don't must delay them. They don't want the truth to come out. They must delay them. Even for a creative procurement request for a completely different project, the NWC replied that it needed more time. You hear that? Pay delay tactics. Pay delay tactics in an Andrew Holness administration. The request made on March 24 merely asked question like, who is the contractor for the Western Parishes Water Supply and Resilience Improvement Program? When was this agreement signed? What was the procurement method used? The justification for this method and who approved the procurement method? Remember, Zara Burton and the Andrew Holness administration, they must see them accounting. We are talking about procurement guidelines, both. I'm sorry. And Andrew Holness and where Sewell is the cabinet secretary. You understand? And remember something can breach. Remember, Zara, at $3 trillion unaccounted for. And why $3 trillion accounted for? In how many ministries, Zara Burton? The ministry's appropriation account, right, is not being reported annually. From the 9 years Andrew Holness in power, none of the ministries submitting any procurement report. So what I tell you, Zara, bro? Zara, what I tell you? Nothing. No, I'm sure they'll follow up on that for correct them get there. No, you have to let it loose because money have to run. The treasury have to suffer. And inflation have to go up and kill the people them. Remember saying it's a kleptocratic government we are dealing with. However, the NWC wrote this week and April 23 requesting 30 additional days to process the application. Here they again. Another May 7 ATI inquiry for copies of all contracts between NWC and Vinci over the last 15 years was also met with a similar request for an extension. That second 30-day period expires the first week of May. They don't want people to know the information. But all the information requested will eventually be forthcoming from the NWC remains to be seen. If and when the information is delivered, the extent to which reductions will complicate the public ability to understand the merits of these deals may make for yet another story. I'm sorry, you're right. They're going to kill you with reduction. If I 100 don't know what they're going to reduce, almost every word tonight, they are going to reduce because they don't want people to know the truth. They don't want people to know the truth. Take it away. Let me go to that.
Yeah.
Something like this. Right? Where the government and a private partner agree to increase interest rate to additional total of $2 billion for the people there. And yet Zara Bird is seeking the information as to why that is. During that time, when Donald Trump they fling out tariff, and other countries are protecting their people, Andrew Holness just say, loose up that man. Yo, run man, pressure them man. Additional $2 billion. We don't care about them. What say you, Rattigan, for the matter?
Let me just go back to the ATI that you filed. Under the law, you have 30 days. The entity, the ministry, department, or agency, has 30 days to respond to you. 30 days to respond, meaning that they acknowledge receipt and they tell you, they give you the information, or they said, we're not going to give you the information, or they said, we need more time for the information. And that more time is 30 days under the law. So they have up to 60 days that they can hold you off. Now, if they don't provide you with information after 60 days, then you go to a tribunal, which I suspect is what you did. Because once they say they're not giving it to you, they don't reconsider. It goes to a tribunal, and then the tribunal will decide. So I guess you went to the tribunal, but what happened now is the tribunal said, okay, I would love to see what the tribunal said, because now what she's saying is, they said that we can't give you the information. but we can't give it to you. We might have to redact the information based on I think it's section, I'm looking at it here, it's section 20 of the access to information. And section 20B says that they don't have to give you the information. They don't have to, the document is exempt from disclosure if it contains information concerning the commercial interests of any person or organization, including a public authority, and the disclosure of that information would prejudice those interests. Now, here's where Zara have a case made. Based on what we've read so far now, it looks as if they're going to overcharge the public. This contract is not worth, it's worth far less than their real value at this point in time, which means that some kind of shenanigan are going on. So our argument has to be, no, we mean prejudice the interests of the parties involved. The parties really involved are the people of Jamaica. They're the ones who are going to have to pay this extra money. So therefore, this cannot apply. It would only apply in the interest where, in the case where the contract doesn't really have to do with the people of Jamaica, like in a water situation where they're providing a service. You know, I can't see where they could they could decide not to provide this information. However, they're going to give her the information, and I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to redact the hell out of this thing. And she's going to have to go back to the tribunal and say, listen, this document is useless. All I see here is just the name. I don't see the substance. You know, I don't see the provisions. I don't see the terms.
Them take out the context.
They won't black out the whole thing. They won't read that whole thing and then just leave the names on and things like that. So, Zara, if you watch a program, and I hope you are, you need to prepare yourself to go back to the tribunal, because you're going to get a document that is useless to you. And this, again, I mean, if you read the Jamaican laws, you know, and I was watching the Prime Minister today, you know, watching his conference speech, and he was saying that he's going to establish a group that they'll go back and they'll revisit Jamaican laws and update them. This is one of them that has to be updated, this ATI here, because believe me, I've gotten a ton of information, including today. I get information every week from them, but it's full of loopholes, and we need to close these loopholes. I'll give you one quick example. I asked them to tell me about the gender policy, because the Prime Minister said him bringing the gender policy, and I said to him, and the gender policy, it says a whole bunch of things, but they said 3 things that every agency, ministry, and department must do. 1, you must have a focal person. You must have one person in every ministry, department, and agency responsible for this program. 2, you must have, them call it sex disaggregated information, meaning you look at how many men, how many women, you collect all of that, you know, because you have to balance the workforce. And the 3rd one is you must have a program. Must have a program. Now, who's in charge of this? Babsy Grange, her ministry, but every ministry must do it. And when I ask Minister Grange is the only ministry in Jamaica with 2 permanent secretaries. It's one of the smallest ministries, and it has 2. Only one in Jamaica with 2 permanent secretaries. Dean Roy Bernard and the other guy who did it before. I know them tell me. We need an additional 30 days to figure out who's in charge of this program. And we need an additional 30 days to tell you if the program is implemented. And we need an additional 30 days to tell you if we collect all the data. And while they do this, guess what them just done to last month? Them just have a month-long celebration where they must spend the taxpayers' money. And they must spend the taxpayers' money on a program that is not implemented. So how would that go? So guess what now? The Prime Minister's office now, them think them slick. I'm sending it to the whole government. Them write me and them say them need 30 days. We say take the 30 days. Them come and write me again this week and tell me, say, oh, it looks like you're asking the whole government and we're not responsible for the whole government partner. Write them back today and say, listen, just consider this request specifically aimed at the office of the Prime Minister. Then write me back this evening. Same day we had a conversation. Write back and say, Mr. Rattigan, no later than close of business tomorrow, you will have your answer. And you know the answer could be that them don't have a focal point, them don't have the sex disaggregated information, and them don't have a program. And this is what Jamaican taxpayers are paying every year, you know. Every year they must pay for this program, you know. They have a big celebration at Pegasus. Who do you think pay for that? Who do you think pay? When they have all of the speeches and all of the functions and all that, who do you think pay for that? And that's why we are trying to get it, we are trying to sink it, we are trying to reinforce in the heads of Jamaican people that just because it might not appeal to you, because you know your crime and you know your health, and don't think it not apply to you, because your money is spent for this. And I go back to what Jenny Calder said, A voter's responsibility is every 4 to 5 years you dip your finger in the ink. And if you think like a voter, you will be treated like a voter. But if you think like a financier, because everything that the government have, you finance it. If you think like an employer, because every 4 to 5 years they come to you for a job. And if you think like an owner, everything we see government have are the taxpayers' money. If you think like that, you will start acting differently, because there's no way you go and own a business and you just show up to check on a business every 4 to 5 years. You're going to check on a business there. Every day, you're going to check on a business there. And that is where the Jamaican people fall flat on their face. We're not taking care of our business. We come every 4 to 5 years, dip a finger and think that is it. And I realize it, and we have the power. So, again, Zara Burton, prepare yourself. If you need any help, you can call me. I'm here at your service, because you're going to have to go back to the tribunal. They're not going to give you this information. I yield.
All right. Now, melting pot. You have seen the document that we presented. Take it away, my boss. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
first and foremost, as it relates to the JAM portal, yeah, and the access to information, that should never be denied. You know? Jamaicans should always have access to information from within the government office, irrespective of which one. Because we as taxpayers, we pay the bill. You cannot deny, or should not deny, the taxpayers access to information. So when we look and see how this regime operates under the nuances of dictatorship, where muzzle everybody, run where we for run where and deal with him for deal with. But we make Andrew Holness know, say, we as taxpayers, as electorate, as patriotic Jamaican, will fight to the bitter end to make sure no say we have Jamaica where Jamaica should be, in the rightful hands of credible people, people with integrity, people with transparency, and people who don't have nothing to do with corruption. So all of these tactical delay where you see are because corruption involved. If these things was straightforward, you get the information. But there are things that need to be concealed, things that cannot reveal, things that doesn't look good. And so they contrive to hide information.
So like things that where might jeopardize them winning the election as well. Allegedly. Ladies and gentlemen, me know nothing about that. And as me say, I strongly recommend that you guys go and watch that full video from Mystic Sensation. Trust me. Strongly recommend it. Alright? And big up Mystic Sensation. So let me know what you think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Sarah Burton asking for the data under the act. And it seems as if she's getting the runaround. And you see where and welcome back to the general himself, you know. Where's my mind, Lord? Where's my mind? Welcome back to Rattigan. Welcome back to Rattigan. It seems he's been off for some time. I hear he was sick. But welcome back to Rattigan, and here he mentioned his experience with trying to get information as well. Something is going on with the Jamaica Labour Party, you know. And it's not good. But stories soon come to bump. All the prophecies are being fulfilled from the prophetic regarding this government and its fall. And the more they cover up is the more they will be exposed. I take great comfort in those prophecies. These are thus saith the word of the Lord. So I am not worried, but I stay vigilant and I keep learning. We have Pat W in the building. What's up, Pat? We have Merle Go Hagen. How you doing? Salute to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Blessings to everyone. Yeah, so let me know what you think about that in the comment section. See, and I remember to hit the like button. We should be at least 200 likes. My moderators, how the likes looking? I don't know about anybody sending me any donation. How the likes looking? How the likes looking? Let me know. We should be at least 200 likes, right? Alright?